Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with a real life what is going on type of story. So I'm just going to put this out there, and we're going to put it on the internet so that there is a public record of the crazy shit that's going on around my house. First, a little context. We moved into this house about 6 years ago. The lady that lives next to me is a very nice old lady, but she has a husband, or not a husband, a son. His name is, we'll call him Ryan because his name is Ryan, and I don't give a fuck. And pardon my language. I'm over 30 seconds, right? Pretty close. Anyway, he's a little bit nuts. Like, literally, like a little bit nuts. And I try to be nice to people who are a little bit nuts because you never know when crazy will go crazy, and you'll have to take care of that. And apparently he is diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he decided that schizophrenia is not part of his life, so he doesn't need to take his medication. And he's gone a little bit off the rails here lately. Now, continuing the context, when we moved in here a few years ago, I've already decided that I'm part of the non-aggression fact, right? I'm not doing any aggression on other people. And so I refrain from getting involved in the going-ons around me. And this guy next door hollers at his mama, right? Now, he's a grown fella. Like, he's at least 35, probably pushing 40. And his mama's older. She's probably 70-ish. And she's not in the best of health. And he hollers and screams at her. And there was a time when I would have been very much involved in that situation. But I've decided I'm not getting involved in these situations. So they holler and scream at each other, and they get it mad and whatever. But then he gets drunk, and he gets out there, and he starts screaming at the sky that it's the end of the world. It's the crazy thing, because I kind of believe it's the end of the world, too. So I'm like, whatever, bro, do you crazy over there. I don't care. You're in your yard. Do your crazy. I don't care. Then comes New Year's a couple years ago, and he decided he was going to go ask the neighbor across the street down the way a little bit for a cigarette. And he went down there, and they told him no. So he said he was going to kill them all. He was going to take them all out. He was Abaddon from the Bible. He was Revelation 12:12, and he was Abaddon. And he's even got horns growing out of his skull to prove it. Well, neighbors called the cops on him. And we had 6 of the Livingston Parish Sheriff's finest surrounding his house with guns drawn, trying to get him to come out the house. And he wouldn't come out the house. They didn't have a warrant, so they didn't go in for him. But, like, it was a serious situation. Well, then he gets drunk again a little while later, and he's taking propane tanks, the kind that you hook up to your barbecue pit. He's taking those and throwing them up in the air, just chunking them, like, whatever. Like, and again, I'm like, it's your yard. I don't care. As long as it stays over there, be crazy over there. Now, he's not always wild like that, but it happens at least once a month, and it's been fairly constant for the last, 6 years we've been here? 2017, however long that is, y'all gotta add it up. But it's been pretty constant. About once a month he goes a little bit nuck and futz, and he does his thing over there, and it's whatever. But now he done went off his meds, and he's starting to get involved in my business. And here's some more context. We had the hurricane. Y'all remember the hurricane? I did some videos on it. They're still up. And we lost power, and my fence got blown down. When my fence got blown down, we didn't have the money to put up a new fence. So what we did was we took the old fence and we cut it in half, right? And now, instead of a 6-foot tall fence, there's a 3-foot tall fence that encapsulates my backyard. I have 3 dogs. I have a Catahoula Bulldog mix. I have a Terrier or 2 Terrier mixes. And one of them's 16, one of them's 14, and one of them's 10. Now, my Bulldog likes to talk. He's a very talkative fella, and he likes to talk a whole lot. And my neighbor is terrified of him, so after I shortened the fence, he expressed to me that he was terrified after I confronted him because he was threatening to kill my dogs. And I told him, I said, look, bro, I can whoop your ass right here, and we can get done with this, and it'll be whatever. And he didn't want to take that option. He wanted to throw a fit and talk about killing my dog. So I said, all right, here's what I'm going to do. And I took another section of this cut-off fence, and I cut it in half, and I put it 3 feet, or a foot and a half, maybe 2 feet, between the fence that's already there. Well, first, I put up a wire fence. Above the short fence, there's a wire fence now. It covers the whole area. That wasn't enough, so I put a fence inside the fence. It's a little short, maybe 1.5 feet tall. He just keeps the dogs from getting too close to the other fence. Still not enough. He's still got an issue with this. And it's like, well, too bad, this is my yard. Fast forward a couple weeks ago. I'm coming back. I brought my brother-in-law to the store because I do that on occasion. And we're coming back, and I'm looking, and I had set up a snake repellent on the side of my yard. And I don't like snakes. I got dogs. I got kids. There's kids in the neighborhood. I don't want any snakes around here. And if you take a 2-liter bottle and you fill it half full of water and you put some mothballs in it, you poke some holes in it, it runs the snakes off. They don't care for the smell of the camphor. So I had that set up on the side of my yard. And it had been expired, like I needed to refresh it. But I get back, and that bottle is moved out of my yard and is sitting on the road in front of my garbage can. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I get out, and this Ryan over here, he's like, oh, what is that? I was like, well, that's a snake repellent I set up in my yard to repel snakes from my yard. And, oh, well, okay. And like, I'm annoyed because he came into my yard and he moved something that didn't belong to him, regardless if it's trash. If it's not your trash, you don't come into my yard and remove my trash. My trash. Like, I don't care if it's trash. It's in my yard. It's my trash. And so I'm annoyed with that. And he starts talking about the drainage between us now. He done went a little bit off the rails with this drainage. He does a lot of planting. He's got a whole lot of fruit trees that really, I'm not opposed to that because y'all know where I'm at. I want food for its abundance. I want food everywhere. And he's got a whole lot of fruit trees, and he's done a real good job with that. But he's got obsessed with drainage, particularly the drainage in between our houses. And he has somehow decided that I, because my house sits here, am stopping the drainage of his yard, and his house is going to sink. And so he has decided that he's going to build a ditch between our houses, and he has endeavored quite well. He started off, it was about 1.5 inches, right? And that's across, it's about 150 feet. And he built a ditch going out this way, and he built a ditch going out that way. And he gets out there and he waters this ditch every once in a while. That'll come up later. Anyway, he's talking about this drainage on the side of the house, and he brings me back by my AC unit where I had the snake trap set. And he asked me if I think my drain clean out that's right there is leaking. So I check it, and I'm like, no. He says, oh, well, do you think this fence is holding up drainage? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I'm in a hurry. I got other things to do. I'll walk inside. Well, it turns out that he had called the cops on me. And if you don't know me, I'm going to tell you something right now. Something that you want to know, if you ever come in contact with me, personally, is that you never ever want to call the cops on me. I really do not like my life being threatened. And that is what that is. When you call the law enforcement, you are threatening somebody's life, because that is what can very realistically happen. And so I didn't find out about that until a couple of days later when I was talking to his mama, because his mama's real nice. We talk. And he's just a little bit crazy. He's got her in a real bad situation over there that she really can't get out of. And so, anyway, fast forward a couple of nights later, and if you know me, you know that I use a natural herb for pain management, right? And I had just finished partaking of my natural herb for pain management, and I walk out of my room outside where I'm currently in, and my garage door is open, as it generally is in the evenings, and it's dark outside, and I see Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office sitting in the road out there with the light pointing towards my house. So I'm like, oh shit. And I walk out there, and the officer's over around. He walked up to the front door instead of the garage, and that's cool. But I walk up, and he walks up, and he's like, so, did you call me? No, sir, I didn't. He said, well, this is the number we were called to. I said, well, it's probably my neighbor. He's a little bit crazy. And he said, oh, well, I don't understand why he would call me to your house. And I said, can I ask you, do you mind if I ask you what he called for? And he said, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And I said, well, sir, he called off the police the other day, and this is the part I ain't told you yet, but he called the police the other day because he said that I had a bottle of piss on the side of my house that I was storing that I had set up my clean out from my septic so that it would run into this bottle of piss and then it would drain into his yard because he could smell poop. And he thought that I had set up this elaborate contraption. That's why the bottle was out in front of my garbage can. And I told the officer this, and he said, "It's probably your neighbor." And he walked over to Ryan's house. Well, Ryan's got his garage closed, but he's in the garage smoking weed. And he knocks on the door, and Miss Marcia goes and gets Ryan. And he rolls the garage door up, and a cloud of weed comes out. And he's talking to the officer, and the officer's like, "So what's going on?" And Ryan proceeds to tell me, and then the officer told me this, so I'm going to skip over the officer coming over to me. Or actually, he talked to him, and the officer comes talk to me, and he's like, "All right, so I don't understand exactly what's going on here, but Mr. Ryan over here says that you threw poop into his garage." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, officer, I can promise you one thing. I don't scoop poop. I walk my dogs. I don't let them poop until we get to the right of way at the front of the neighborhood, because I ain't scooping poop in nobody else's yard. And I have a backyard so that they can go poop, and I ain't got to scoop poop most of the time anyway. And so I don't scoop no poop." And he's like, "Well, he says that you took some poop and you threw it up in his garage." And I asked him, and I was like, "Well, all right, well, where's the poop?" And he's right there. And he points down, and he's like, "Mr. Ryan," I said, I'm not going to use his last name. He said, "Mr. Ryan, that's an oil stain." He said, "Yeah, I know." And this poor cop, like, and this cop's probably 21 years old. Like, he is just old enough to hold the firearm, right? Like, brand new, fresh to the force. And he's like thoroughly confused as he's relaying this information to me. And he's like, Ryan told him, he said, "Yeah, I know." And he says, "Okay then." And so he walked over there to talk to me. And he relays this information, and I'm like, "Look, he's a little bit crazy, and he's become obsessed with this drainage." So I tell the cop about this ditch. Now, this ditch started out, he dug, it was 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches deep. And he dug it's not quite the whole length of the lot. But he started here, and he went to the front, and he started here, and he went to the back. And it was about 1.5 inches deep when he started, but I was like, he gets out here with this water hose, and he runs this water hose in the ditch. And like he's just watering his ditch, and he's like, "Okay." And now the ditch is like 3 inches deep, and it's over the right of way. Like it's where the utilities come in. Like he dug over the top of the water pipes and the electric pipe, water, like all of that. He dug right over the top of that, and now he's washing it down. And he's like, "Well, that's more of a civil matter." I'm like, I don't care if he fucks it up. He fucks it up. He's got to pay for it. But like, I'm gonna be mad. Anyway, as I'm telling the cop that he comes and waters this ditch every so often, the hose jumps. Like Ryan's hose next door, it jumps. And he walks up, and he's got a push broom in his hand, and he picks up the water hose and starts watering the ditch. Y'all, this cop goes, "I'm out." Now, in my driveway, I got 2 cars, right? And then Ryan's over here. This cop walks from over here in front of this car, around this other car, all the way around, like he just gets in his car and takes up. All of this, and like, this guy is intentionally antagonizing me at this point, right? He's already called the cops on me twice, which is already a problem. But he's parking in front of my house now. He's got his yard, and he's got places to park over there. But now he's decided that he needs to park in front of my house and make it a hazard for my wife to back out of the driveway. Now, I live on a dead end. Like, the road literally dead ends in my front yard. If it was not for the road extending past my driveway, which is the only driveway there, that would be my yard. Like, it could literally stop at my driveway, and there's no need for that road at all. But he's decided he wants to park right there in front of the dead end sign in my yard every day, causing a hazard for my family coming out of my yard. And he's decided that he needs to extend his drainage ditch into my yard. So I wanted a record of this. I'm going to put this online so that it doesn't disappear. And I wanted a record of this because this dude's getting a little bit knuck and futz over here. And I might wind up having to catch me a misdemeanor assault charge, if you understand what I'm saying. And I just wanted to let y'all know that if I disappear for a couple of days, it's not that big of a deal down here. Like, misdemeanor assault down here is not that big of a deal. It's a ticket, right? But it depends on the severity of the beating. So if I disappear for a couple of days, I wanted to let y'all know I'll be back. And hopefully this was a little bit entertaining. This is a real life true story. Every bit of this happened. And it is not done yet. I'll get some pictures up, put them on my community page of this ditch so y'all can see it. Like, it's a little bit knuck and futz, y'all. It's a little bit knuck and futz. Anyway, to the crew. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me. I am praying for you every single day. I'm praying for him. I really am. I'm praying for him every day that there is a nonviolent situation, like a nonviolent solution to this, just magically appears. Because I don't call the cops on people, y'all. I don't. I'm not that dude. I don't call the cops except for cleanup. So, it is what it is. Until next time, I love you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way you are. It's been Pittstake. Peace.